Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Thank you all for coming, and we got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, we're going to be back to this book here that I got, this Astral Projection book. And this, we've been reading out of, and it's talking about a guy, and he's at a coffee shop, and he's been practicing. He's doing his astral projection. He's flying around, he's checking things out, and we're following his journey to see where it goes. He's explaining all of these things about getting out of his body one arm at a time and doing this arm and doing this arm and then his legs and then pretty soon his head, and he's spinning around, and then finally he's out, and then he starts to learn how to control it a little bit. But all of a sudden, poof, he's in a coffee shop one day, and oh no, things starts feeling strange. He's staring into his coffee cup, and the next thing you know, he's out of his body, and he's flying around, and he's checking things out. And he sees an orb flying around too. It seems to notice him. And then he's whipped back into his body, and his buddy who's talking to him at the coffee shop didn't even know he was gone. Well, is this fascinating you as much as it is me? Well, let's get right back into the book. And as always, I got some pictures, so you don't have to look at my ugly mug. And we'll get right back into this and pick up with the next chapter. And here we go. Okay, and the next chapter will be the idea of the soul according to the ancient doctrines. How about that? But you know anything about your soul? You have an idea? Maybe you do. Leave me a comment. Let me know. Because I sure don't. I have no clue. Anyway, here we go. Back when I was a philosophy student at the University of Stockholm, I used to enjoy the occasional meetings I had with one of my classmates, a Buddhist from Sri Lanka. Our usual meeting point after class was the Sextant, a cafe walls which had kept the same color on its walls since the 1970s. The subject of the astral travel came up in our conversations, and my colleague told me that they were a normal experience to him too. The other Buddhists in the circle had also had such experiences. In Buddhist culture, the subject was actually taken for granted. Surprised, I told him about my own experiences, and to our surprise, we realized that the essential elements were the same. We speculated as to whether the worldview in which one grows up can increase the chances of having an out-of-body experience. The theoretical study of the spiritual and the occult subjects had a very positive influence on my experiences with the astral. Anything that was about spirituality, occultism, and paranormal phenomena, I eagerly absorbed. Over time, from this scheme, which was built upon his real background, astral travel, and the conscious experiences outside the physical body are in themselves nothing new to extraordinary. Throughout history, we find ideas about unknown dimensions and soul journeys outside the physical body. However, these theories had a miserable and rather hidden existence in Christianity and Islam. In the early days, it was even customary to persecute and kill the practitioners of this art. The witches seemed to be quite capable of astral travels and were burned at the stake for their lore. In simple words, we can talk about two types of spirituality. One, exorcist, and the other exoteric, and the other esoteric. The exoteric is a external organized spirituality and is practiced by established religions. It also includes laws, ceremonies, and sacred texts. Esoteric spirituality, on the other hand, is a personal and interspirituality, which deals with experiences with dimensions other than physical. The spirituality is found in mysticism, magic, and the occult. It could be said that the physical body belongs to the esoteric or exoteric dimension, and the astral body to the esoteric vision. The belief in the astral body has been present in esoteric theories of all times. For the academic point of view, esotericism has always been viewed with skepticism. Hearsay in the eyes of priests and theologians, backward superstition from the point of view of scientists. According to the historian Francis Yates, in 1899 to 1981, it is precisely esotericism and hermetic transition, as she called it, that led the way in the development and advancement of modern sciences. The determined experiments and attempts at magicians and alchemists on to manipulate existence itself was the starting point for empirical research. Francis Yates, the leading researcher in the field of the Renaissance at her time, thereby created a new paradigm and received countless awards and honorary doctorates for her contribution, as well as having great prestige in the research community. And traditions that share common roots, despite their superficial differences. Western exotericism can be seen as a third philosophy alongside Greek rational thought and Judeo-Christian faith, the two great worldviews on which Western culture is founded. A characteristic of Western exotericism is the existence of two fundamental principles, which are exaggerated rational thought and dogmatic faith. Esotericism contains a global vision of the human and universe. Each one is the reflection of the other, and therefore the possibility for man to obtain knowledge about God and nature through exploration and study of his interior. This is how the investigation of nature and theological study can help man to gain knowledge about himself. Esotericism is characterized by the fact that this process of knowledge develops progressively through different stages of initiation. The foundations of contemporary Western esotericism are found within Gnosticism and doctrines of Hermetic tradition through the later terms described, particularly the philosophy, and emerged in the Renaissance, which synthesized Kabbalah, Neoplatonism, and medieval magic and Hermeticism. Esoteric as an objective dates back to the antiquity we find at first mentioned in the year 166 in the writings of Lucian of Samosata. Esotericism is a noun. On the other hand, is of much later date and was now introduced as a term in 1856 by a French man, Alphonse Louis Constant, better known by his pseudonym Philip Levi. Levi also introduced the term occultism, which was supposedly invented by him, inspired by Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa in 1533. His book De Occulta Philosophia. Occult means hidden. The term occultism and esotericism, which often seems to have two names for the same phenomena, but many researchers found it more effective to keep them separate. Occultism is in the case of a practice, and esotericism is the theory. A central idea in esotericism is that there are different levels of reality, which the adept must explore and penetrate. This occurs through initiation. Initiation or concentration is a key term in esotericism. The goal of initiation is to be able to see the hidden core behind the outward appearance of the phenomena. Through initiation, the adept gets in touch with the inner dimension of religion and the mysteries and gains knowledge about their hidden truths. The classic scheme of initiatory rites is based on symbolic death, a descent into the underworld, a new birth and return. The initiate leaves behind their old life and their old self and is born again, often with another name to represent the new persona. The terms of ascent, descent, and conjunction of these opposites are frequently mentioned in descriptions of esoteric initiation. The old life is represented as a cage, as a prison of ignorance from which the individual is freed, though the process of initiation or esoteric enlightenment, the initiation rites of Freemasonry, as well as other esoteric groups, are based on staged symbolic death and resurrection, which is celebrated with implements such as coffins, religious symbols, and coats of arms that represent the new person. The French professor of religion, Antoine Farver, has defined 6 characters that must be fulfilled so that something can be adequately be considered esoteric. According to his model, a theory about correspondence is first needed, which starts from the idea of hidden connections between the visible and non-visible parts of the universe. The idea consider relationships between minerals, the human body, planets, and different planes of the universe. Second, the existing imaginary regard the existence of the living nature, based upon the idea that the cosmos represents a complete, diverse, and heretical unit in which nature takes a place of equal value with God and man. This living nature is pierced by a kind of light or fire and is full of potential revelations and should therefore be read like a book. Thirdly, in esotericism, emphasis is placed on the meaning of fantasy and meditation. Esotericism diverts from mysticism, and this is focused heavily on the planes between the physical world and the divine spheres. These planes are described as astral planes, and the first speculations about their nature are found in neoplastism. A lot of isms there. The theory about angels and other intermediate beings becomes meaningful in this relationship, similar to the ideas about the significance of the roles of a guru or an initiate. Where mysticism sees fantasy as a kind of obstacle, esotericism sees it as a possibility to get closer to the hidden. For those who want to gain knowledge about the self, worlds and myths, fantasies is a tool. It can break down the outer appearance to let the hidden and true interior emerge. Fourthly, esotericism emphasizes that the adept undergoes a process of transmutation. Without the experience of transmutation as an essential component, esotericism could be seen as a simple form of speculative spirituality. The word transmutation comes from alchemy and refers to the transference or change from one plane to another. And in this context, the metamorphosis of the individual to a higher form of existence. Favier mentions two components related to these four angular pillars of esotericism: concordance and allegory. In some fields of esotericism, there is an idea that there is coordinates between the different religions and theories, and that it is possible to find similarities to unify them. Another distinctive feature is esoteric theories is the system of meditation of knowledge from teacher to apprentice, often through different stages of initiation. Okay, look at that. You figured all that out? I hope you did. Now we're going to go on. Here's another chapter. Johann Berlos, a Swedish astral visionary. Okay, Sweden has a long history of great personalities in the esoteric tradition. The most famous are Saint Bridget of Sweden and Emanuel Swedenborg, another Swedish visionary who is not far behind them, but who has nevertheless been forgotten by the masses, is Johannes Burroughs, 1568 to 1652, as the tutor of a Swedish king, Gustav II Adolf. He had a very significant role in the intellectual climate during Sweden's time as a great world power. During early December of 1633, Burroughs was on a trip to Tuna in the province of Dalarna, along with the king, in order to purchase the new edition of the Bible. On the morning of December 5th, Burroughs was taken by a moment of ecstasy, as he called it, and heard a voice singing. And I could repeat this. Whatever, blah, blah, blah. Do. How about that? Close up streams, young boys drunken themselves full. Okay, and according to Burroughs, hidden in these Latin words was a prophecy about the end of the world, the date of which he noted in capital letters in the transcript, the Song of the Angels. In 1613, Burroughs saw himself as an enlightened individual, having received the knowledge about the hidden truth of the world. He was Sweden's first major antiquarian and made a catalog of a variety of rune inscriptions and rune stones. He was convinced that the language also possesses magical qualities, and that it serves as a medium between the higher spiritual world and the human world. According to Burroughs, both the world and the human being are composed of three main planes, which is widely held view of esotericism. There is a divine plane and an material plane, and between them is the meditating plane, which is referred to as the astral world, or in other traditions also called the soul of the world. This trinity is the recurring theme in Burroughs. In addition to the creator and his creations, there is also the act of creating itself. To this plane belongs what Burroughs calls a mediator, who can be considered as an equivalent of Jesus, but also as Odin, and a mythological figure that he calls Birger Tidenson. Briger? Yeah. Burroughs believed that the universe consists of three books written by God. The first book is the Word of God, which can be interpreted as the Bible or as the Word, which John describes as a Gospel Bible, or Gospel of John. Gospel of John. John 1:1, actually. The Gospel of John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The second book is the microcosm, nature, and the Word around humans. The third book is the microcosm, the man and the interior of him. Sorry. The Word was created with three main parts: sky, land, and sea. The sea is lowest plane and corresponds to the body. The earth is the meditating plane, corresponds to paradise. And the soul, while heaven belongs to the divine from Bureau's point of view, man is a homo triplex, a man with triple nature. He claimed that the tripartition could again be found in the word Sal, S-A-L. Go figure. There you go. There's your other worlds and astral planes. The soul, the spiritual principle of man, homo spiritualis. Ada, spirit, the sum of all human capacities, with reason being a part of the principle, homo rationalis. Licamen, the body, matter, human, flesh, and blood, homo carnelius. According to him, Odin and Jesus must have been the same person, since they sacrificed themselves for the greater goal. Odin sacrificed himself on the cosmic world tree of Yggdrasil to obtain knowledge about the mysteries of life and death, while Jesus sacrificed himself on the cross to save the souls of men. For Bureaus, the worlds are also astral planes in which language exists as a mediator. These thoughts are also found in Plato, and later also in Hindu philosophy. According to this doctrine, language has a core which corresponds to the thing it describes. After all, the thinkers throughout the ages came to understand that a word has different meanings for different people, and that there are so many different languages. They came to the conclusion that it is not the usual language, the one that corresponds directly to the objects. Common language possesses only abstractions that we use in order to be able to communicate something. But below its surface, the philosopher and the seeker can find the true word. And the one who manages to obtain the knowledge about the true word also attains power over the objects that it represents. This thought underlies the idea of magical formulas. For Bureaus, language is not only something that conveys information between people, but also between the upper and lower worlds, between the spiritual plane and the earthly plane. The immediate level, understood as an intermediate plane between humans and the higher and lower worlds, is the astral plane. From the perspective, traveling to the astral world can also mean traveling to worlds of language. It is for this reason that astral experiences can be misunderstood. Linguistic symbols are experienced as concrete objects, but they are not the same as their physical correspondents. When an astral traveler says that he has seen an angel, he is describing something different and more complex than our conventional idea of an angels as luminous figures from the sky with great wings. The astral world can be described as a dimension in which symbols are experienced as concrete forms. Well, you figure that. Well, I suppose you can't talk in the astral world, so you got to do it some way or another. Okay, a little bit here, and we'll get another page or so here, and then we'll end off. A pause. Before we go any further and examine some sort of esoteric philosophies that have helped me while exploring the astral, it seems to be time to take a breath. If you haven't already read some esoteric literature, you will encounter quite a few new concepts from many different languages. It's nothing you have to learn by heart, but you don't want to. Theories can be helpful. It's in shaping mental maps, but they are not a prerequisite prerequisite for successful astral experiences. There are countless people who know everything about the theory who have never had a practical experience. However, I think it's good to have some theory in the back of your mind, since this allows for much deeper experiences. Esoteric has always turned to Egypt as a source of their teachings. Thinkers like Guy Dargo Bruno and his only and not only during the Renaissance were the opinions that Egypt was the origin of most archaic knowledge. The religion of the ancient Egyptians is impressive in every way, and their knowledge of the human soul was enormous. There were they were able to craft a map of man and not only divide him into body and soul, but identified a variety of different components that man made up those components that made up him. According to the Egyptian text, man is made up of the following parts: the the, the hot, the physical body which rots away when we die, or which can be preserved through mummification; the ka, the self, or its double, which is separate from the body, which when the person dies, it can enter objects, and the Egyptians sacrificed food and drink to keep it from haunting them. The ka represented the creative and technical life force, and as it returns to spiritual origin. So there you go. The ba is part of the soul that builds up in a person's personality and individuality. It is the companion of the ka, and also lives on after the man's death. Unlike the ka and the ba, needs help to separate from the body. Though mummification and certain special rituals, the ba can be freed from the body so that it can be united with the ka. Once united with the ka, the dead person becomes an ark and can live on in the next life. If the ba is not freed, united with the ka, man would suffer the second death, which was the final death, and what the Egyptians feared the most. The Egyptians feared something. Oh boy. The ab, the heart, was the important element. Among the parts of the soul, it was the heart that was weighted against the feather of truth after man's death. The heart was the seat of emotions and the character of man. The Ren, the name, was something to which Egyptians attached great importance. Losing one's name meant to become non-existent. Therefore, the Egyptians tried in every way that the name would be preserved after they died by carving or painting it on their coffins, in their grave, or wherever it might remain. The kahabat, the shadow, is an important part of the man. It is an extension of the body, but it has existence separate from the body. It gives protection, and the Egyptians made offerings to it. Okay, we are going to end right there. How about that? And with that, next time we'll come up as the next part is the chapter is the Kabbalic doctrine of the soul. Ooh, the Kabbalic doctrine of the soul. Well, I hope you all come back and join me for part 4. This will be 4. Anyway, join me for part 4. In the meantime, go out and do something nice for somebody. Enjoy your life. Do some astral travel. And if you do, and this helps you out, let me know in the comments below. With that, go out and do something nice for somebody. It'll make you feel better. And that's what we're all about here. Remember, go out, be frequency you want to receive. I love you all, everybody.